Namaskar. This is Akhilesh Bhargav. Welcome to Tidbits on Business and Finance with me. The Kane Energy retrospective tax case is back in the news, but for entirely different reasons this time. It had occupied headlines after a recent French court order attaching several properties of the Indian government situated in Paris and valued at about 20 million euros as it sought recovery of the $1.72 billion award given to it by the International Tribunal in December last year. Kane had earlier said that it had identified properties of $70 billion of the Indian government worldwide, which it could pursue to recover its dues from the Indian government. It had also sued Air India in the New York District Court this year to enforce the huge arbitration award, contending that the distinction between Air India and the government is purely illusory. Interestingly, even Vodafone had received such a favorable arbitration award against the government last year, but it did not pursue it in a coercive manner as Kane has done, maybe because its recovery amount was just about 47 crore rupees and that it has too much at stake in India, and so therefore it would be prudent not to do so. Despite the order of the French court against it and the possibility that many more such orders were likely to come, the government was unmoved and perfunctorily remarked that it was exploring all legal options in the matter, that it had challenged the $1.72 billion arbitration award, and that no court or arbitration award can negate the sovereign right of the government to levy tax in India. On the other hand, Kane said that while it was open to an acceptable settlement with the government, it would however pursue all possible options to protect the interests of its shareholders. In other words, it was going to recover the money from the government because that is what was the interest of its shareholders. With Kane having filed recovery suits in many nations and the warring parties being a large corporate and a sovereign nation, both deep-pocketed, both determined, a protracted and long litigation was on the cards as Kane would seek to recover its dues from the government of India. And that meant that India would continue to be in the global news for all the wrong reasons for some more time, causing only further harm to its image as an investment destination. The government, however, continued to be determined and defiant despite this, emphasizing that it would win an appeal and that it was thus ready for a long battle. It showed all the hubris and vanity of being a sovereign, and just a few days ago, the Minister of State for Finance said that it had received no settlement proposal from Kane, as if the ball to settle was in Kane's court. It is Kane which has had an order in his favor, and the government should have been interested to do that, but it sounded the reverse. In a surprising, sudden and unexpected U-turn for the better, the finance minister yesterday moved a bill proposing to undo the retrospective tax with effect from 28 May 2012 and to provide that subject to certain conditions as specified in the amendment bill, the retro tax together with interest and penalty levied on the likes of Vodafone, Kane and 15 others would be nullified and the amounts recovered under these cases from them could be refunded. The statement of objects and reasons justifying and explaining the reasons for such an amendment to the Income Tax Act first stated that the retrospective tax amendment of 2012 had been severely criticized by stakeholders. It says that it militates against the principle of tax certainty and damages India's reputation as an attractive investment destination. The statement then says that this retrospective tax demand continues to be a sore point with potential investors despite the major reforms which it says have created a positive environment for investment in the country. It then says that such retro tax demand has been raised in 17 cases, of which 4 have gone into international arbitration and 2 have been stayed by the high courts. Of course, out of the 4, in 2 cases, which is Vodafone and Kane, favorable orders were given by the international arbitration tribunals. Quick recovery, it says, of the economy is the need of the hour, and foreign investment has an important role to play in promoting faster economic growth and employment in India. The amendment therefore proposes, the first thing it proposes is that no tax demand shall be raised in respect of any indirect transfer of India assets which was done before 20th of May 2012. In other words, the demands raised on Vodafone, Kane, etc. would be nullified. It then says that the demand raised shall be nullified on the fulfillment of specified conditions such as withdrawal of all pending litigation, and that no claims for any cost, any damages, interest, etc. shall be filed by the other party. It then says that the government will refund the amount paid in these cases without any interest thereon. Thus, the refund would go, but no interest would be paid to the concerned parties. To us, this is indeed a pragmatic and landmark move, which is so much welcome. All experts have hailed the move. One of them curiously pointed out that 5th August seems to have become an important landmark date on the government's calendar. He says that on 5th August 2019, Article 370 was abrogated. On the same day last year, he points out, the foundation stone of the Ram Mandir was laid at Ayodhya. And now this year, he says, we have the retro tax nullification on 5th of August. Most experts hailed it to be a big move but wondered why it took so long for the present government to do what we call the most obvious and the most correct thing. This should have been done in 2014 itself when the government came to power, that too after having very clearly accepted that such retro taxes are not justified. The fact, however, is that it has done it now. The larger picture that emerges from this move, according to us, is pretty interesting and multifaceted. The first point, the government has wisely chosen pragmatism over vanity, even though it is a bit late in the day. To us, 7 years is a long enough time to see the writing on the wall. We presume that before introducing such an amendment as part of its pragmatism that it now shows, the government would have come to some kind of an understanding of prior deal, particularly with the likes of Kane, to ensure that they accept the government's stand and close the case and do not pursue litigation further in any domain, whether domestic or international. The second point, if all the parties and litigants accept the move, then the government will need to refund about 8,100 crore rupees, of which 7,880 crores belongs to Kane alone. The third point, the question is, why did it take so long for good sense to prevail? If it had been done in 2014 itself, then all the humiliation and bad press that we got would have been avoided, and the government's sincerity to make India an attractive investment destination would have been readily accepted. That is not so now. The very fact that the government itself condemned retro tax in the beginning but took no immediate steps to undo it puts a question mark on its bona fides now and makes one feel that it is the defeats in arbitration in international courts that made it embark on this particular move now. That gets us to the next point. The sequence of events perhaps indicates that Kane Energy managed to drive the government into a corner and force it into this move, as also that with each successful adverse order, India only got more bad press which needed to stop, and thus this move. The next, as far as the damage to India's reputation is concerned, it is certainly done and it will need much more reforms and efforts by the government to undo it, particularly because such a move came after years of litigation where the government consistently lost, and perhaps that motivated it to come up with this particular amendment. Kane may get a refund of 7,880 crores, but its losses include the huge litigation cost that it would have incurred, denial of interest on monies that were forcibly recovered from it, and the foreign exchange loss due to depreciation of the Indian rupee between 2015-16 and 17, when the money was recovered from it, to 2021, when the dollar has actually appreciated against the rupee. And finally, the government retains the right to tax any overseas transaction involving India assets or businesses that may take place after 28th May 2012. But as far as the period is concerned, before that date, retrospective taxes are not going to be levied. We think that in the very first move, that amendment in 2012 was draconian. It got India the tag of terror tax, and it did untold damage to India's reputation as an investment destination, as a destination where the government would refuse to accept an order even of its Supreme Court, and it would go even to the extent of amending the very law just to gain some brownie points and to collect some taxes. We hope something like this will not happen in future. This is Akhilesh Bhargav signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.
Now be the first to know about the latest updates on our new news app. Go on your Android or iOS, search for HW News Network. Download our app, choose the language you prefer to get updates in, and be up to date with the latest news.
If you like this video, please share it, and we would love to hear your comments in the comments section down here. Also, please do like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter to get minute-to-minute news updates. For more such shows and videos, well, subscribe to our YouTube channel.